The Grand Assembly Hall of the Galactic Federation stretched beyond the horizon, its crystalline walls pulsing with bioluminescent patterns that translated the emotions of 1,000 different species into visible light. Today, those walls flickered with deep purples and angry reds, colors of concern and alarm that had not been seen in the hall for over 3 centuries. Ambassador Zeth Kaler stood at the central podium, his 6 arms gesticulating with increasing urgency as he addressed the assembled delegates. His species, the Vorthak, had served as mediators in countless conflicts across the galaxy, their natural empathic abilities making them ideal diplomats. But today, even his usually calm blue-green skin had shifted to a sickly yellow, a clear sign of distress among his kind. Esteemed colleagues, Zeth Kaler's voice resonated through the translation matrix, his words reaching each delegate in their native tongue. I come before you not as a representative of my homeworld, but as someone who has witnessed firsthand what happens when the species known as humans are pushed beyond their breaking point. A collective murmur rippled through the assembly. The crystalline hierarchs chimed like wine through glass caves, while the gas-formed nebuloids created swirling patterns of concern. The humans had been a topic of heated debate ever since their recent admission to the Federation. Some species viewed them as primitive warmongers, while others saw potential in their rapid technological advancement. Zeth Kaler raised his primary arms for silence. 3 rotations ago, I was assigned to oversee the integration protocols on the human colony world of Kepler 442b. It seemed routine. A standard diplomatic mission to ensure compliance with Federation peaceful coexistence mandates. His skin shifted to a deeper shade of yellow. I was wrong. Catastrophically wrong. The holographic display behind him flickered to life, showing footage from the colony world. Peaceful settlements dotted a verdant landscape, humans working alongside other Federation species in apparent harmony. But Zeth Kaler's expression suggested this tranquility was deceptive. The humans had been sharing this world with the Threxian hive mind for 18 months, he continued. The Threxians, as you know, are a peaceful species, philosophers and artists who communicate through harmonious vibrations. They established beautiful crystal gardens that created music as the wind passed through them. The display showed the ethereal crystal formations, their surfaces catching sunlight and casting rainbow patterns across the colony. Several delegates from peaceful species nodded approvingly at the aesthetic beauty. The incident began with what humans call vandalism. Zeth Kaler's skin now showed streaks of red, a sign of deep trauma among his people. A group of juvenile Threxians, attempting to create what they called new harmonic frequencies, accidentally destroyed a human memorial garden dedicated to their war dead. The assembly fell silent. War memorials were sacred across most cultures, but the concept of war dead was particularly alien to many of the peaceful species present. The Threxians immediately attempted to make amends, Zeth Kaler continued, his voice dropping to barely above a whisper. They offered to rebuild the garden, to create new harmonies in honor of the fallen humans. They even offered compensation according to Federation protocols. But they made one critical error. They described the human dead as having achieved harmony with the universe. Several delegates looked confused. The translation matrices struggled with the cultural nuances at play. You must understand, Zeth Kaler explained, to the Threxians, death is merely a transition to a higher form of existence. They meant their words as the highest form of respect. But to the humans. He paused, his skin now cycling rapidly between yellow and red. To the humans, it sounded like their fallen warriors were being dismissed as insignificant. The holographic display shifted, showing the human settlement in the hours that followed. What had been a peaceful community transformed into something else entirely. The humans moved with a purpose that seemed to defy their individual nature, like a hive mind, but driven by rage rather than collective consciousness. I have studied over 400 species, Zeth Kaler said, his voice gaining strength. I have witnessed the berserker rage of the Korthak warriors, the calculated fury of the Valdris warcastes, even the terrible efficiency of the extinct harvester fleets. But what I saw that day. He shuddered, a motion that rippled across all 6 of his arms. When humans go berserk, they don't just fight, they transcend their physical limitations through sheer force of will. The footage showed human colonists performing impossible feats. lifting equipment that should have required mechanized assistance, moving with speed that rivaled some of the galaxy's fastest species, coordinating attacks with a precision that suggested telepathic communication, though humans possessed no such abilities. The Threxians called upon their gods for protection, Zethkaler continued. The crystal beings known as the Eternal Resonance manifested in physical form entities that had not taken corporeal shape for millennia. These are beings who could reshape matter with a thought, who could stop time itself with their harmonics. The display showed the arrival of the Eternal Resonance, towering figures of living crystal and light that dwarfed the settlements below. Their presence alone should have ended any conflict through sheer awe. The humans looked upon these gods, Zethkaler said, his skin now a deep, stable red, and they attacked anyway. A shocked silence fell over the assembly. Even the most warlike species present seemed stunned by this revelation. Not only did they attack, he continued, but they succeeded. Through improvised weapons, tactical brilliance born of desperation, and a refusal to acknowledge the impossibility of their situation, they actually managed to wound the Eternal Resonance. Beings who had existed since the galaxy's youth, forced to retreat by creatures who had only achieved spaceflight within the last century. The footage showed the aftermath, crystal beings flickering and fading as they withdrew to their higher dimensional plane, while humans stood victorious but forever changed by what they had done. The Threxians evacuated the world that very day, Zethkaler concluded. They left behind everything they had built, too terrified to remain. And the humans? They seemed genuinely confused by the entire situation. They kept asking me why everyone was afraid of them, why their proportional response had caused such alarm. He looked directly at the human delegation, a small group that had maintained stoic silence throughout his testimony. Their ambassador, a middle-aged woman named Chen, nodded slightly, neither confirming nor denying his account. I submit to this assembly, Zethkaler said, that humans must be handled with extraordinary care. Not because they are evil or malicious, but because their capacity for righteous fury transcends the natural order. When they believe they are fighting for something sacred, their dead, their families, their freedom, they become something beyond what physics should allow. He paused, allowing his words to sink in. In my report, I recommended that humans be granted immediate full Federation status, with all associated protections and privileges. Not as a reward, but as a necessity. Because if we ever give them reason to view us as enemies rather than allies, I fear that not even our gods will be able to save us. The assembly erupted into debate, but Zethkaler had said his piece. As he stepped down from the podium, he caught Ambassador Chen's eye. She gave him the slightest smile and mouthed two words in her primitive human language, "Thank you." And for the first time since Kepler 442b, Zethkaler's skin began to shift back toward its natural blue-green.